Welcome to the Bible Quiz and Trivia channel. Today, we're exploring the profound and prophetic book of Isaiah with 30 tough questions that will test your understanding of its themes and prophecies. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like this video to support our content. After the quiz, share your score in the comments. We love seeing how well you do. Are you ready? Let's get started. Question 1. What is the main theme of the book of Isaiah? A. The Law of Moses. B. The history of Israel. C. Salvation through judgment. D. The conquests of David. Answer: C. Salvation through judgment. The main theme of the book of Isaiah is salvation through judgment. Isaiah conveys that through the purging and purification of judgment, both by Assyrian invasions and later Babylonian exile, God will bring about a redeemed community that reflects His glory. This theme is consistent throughout the book, emphasizing the hope that emerges from the necessary divine correction of His people. Question 2. Who was the king of Judah when Isaiah began his prophetic ministry? A. Hezekiah. B. Uzziah. C. Ahaz. D. Josiah. Answer: B. Uzziah. Isaiah began his prophetic ministry during the reign of King Uzziah of Judah. This period is noted in Isaiah 1:1, marking the start of his calling and the extensive period over which he served, through the reigns of several subsequent kings. Question 3. What significant event does Isaiah predict that concerns the nation of Assyria? A. The birth of a great king. B. The construction of a new capital. C. The fall of Nineveh. D. An unprecedented famine. Answer: C. The fall of Nineveh. Isaiah predicts the fall of Nineveh, the capital of Assyria, which is a significant event indicating the decline of one of the major threats to Israel and Judah during the prophet's time. This prediction underscores the transient power of earthly kingdoms compared to the enduring sovereignty of God. Question 4. Which chapter of Isaiah is commonly referred to as the servant song? A. Chapter 53. B. Chapter 65. C. Chapter 40. D. Chapter 9. Answer: A. Chapter 53. Isaiah 53 is commonly referred to as the servant song because of its detailed description of the suffering and exaltation of the Lord's servant. This passage is central to Christian theology as it prophesies the sufferings of Christ and his subsequent glorification. Question 5. How does Isaiah describe the future Messiah's government in his prophecies? A. As a democratic rule. B. As a theocratic reign. C. With peace and justice. D. Under military leadership. Answer: C. With peace and justice. Isaiah describes the future Messiah's government as marked by peace and justice. Specifically, Isaiah 9:6-7 highlights that the government of the Messiah will uphold justice and righteousness from that time on and forever, establishing a reign of peace unlike any earthly governance. Question 6. What symbolic act does Isaiah perform to demonstrate the fate of Egypt and Ethiopia? A. He shaves his head. B. He wears sackcloth. C. He walks barefoot and naked. D. He builds a miniature city. Answer: C. He walks barefoot and naked. Isaiah walks barefoot and naked as a symbolic act to demonstrate the fate of Egypt and Ethiopia, prophesying their humiliation and conquest by Assyria. This act, recorded in Isaiah 22-3, serves as a powerful, vivid sign to Judah of the vulnerability of these nations and the folly of relying on them for military support against Assyria. Question 7. What is the meaning of the name Emmanuel, which appears in Isaiah? A. God is with us. B. God is my strength. C. God has heard. D. God is my judge. Answer: A. God is with us. The name Emmanuel, which appears in Isaiah 7:14, means God is with us. This name is given as a sign to King Ahaz of Judah during a time of political crisis, symbolizing God's presence and assurance of deliverance. Question 8. In what way does Isaiah's vision in the temple in Isaiah 6 start? A. With a declaration of war. B. With a chorus of angels. C. Seeing the Lord seated on a high throne. D. With an earthquake. Answer: C. Seeing the Lord seated on a high throne. Isaiah's vision in the temple starts with him seeing the Lord seated on a high and exalted throne, with the train of his robe filling the temple. This majestic vision, detailed in Isaiah 6:1, marks the beginning of his prophetic call and highlights the sovereignty and holiness of God. Question 9. What role does the city of Jerusalem play in Isaiah's prophecies? A. A place of eventual destruction. B. A symbolic representation of all nations. C. The center of God's salvific plans. D. Just another city among many. Answer: C. The center of God's salvific plans. In Isaiah's prophecies, Jerusalem plays a crucial role as the center of God's salvific plans. The city is depicted not only as the political and religious heart of Judah, but also as the future spiritual center where all nations will come to learn the ways of the Lord, as prophesied in Isaiah 2:2-4. Question 10. How does Isaiah prophesy the coming of peace in chapter 11? A. Through a new covenant with Israel. B. By the restoration of the temple. C. Through a righteous ruler from Jesse's line. D. By defeating all enemy nations. Answer: C. Through a righteous ruler from Jesse's line. In Isaiah 11, the prophet foretells the coming of peace through a righteous ruler who will arise from Jesse's line. This ruler will have the Spirit of the Lord upon him and will judge with righteousness, leading to an era of unprecedented peace where even natural enemies in the animal kingdom will coexist peacefully. Question 11. Which foreign ruler does Isaiah name as someone who will permit the rebuilding of Jerusalem? A. Nebuchadnezzar. B. Cyrus. C. Darius. D. Artaxerxes. Answer: B. Cyrus. Isaiah names Cyrus, the Persian king, as the foreign ruler who will decree the rebuilding of Jerusalem and the temple. This prophecy, astonishingly made about 150 years before Cyrus' birth, highlights God's sovereign control over history, as recorded in Isaiah 44:28. Question 12. What does Isaiah predict about the new heaven and new earth? A. They will be exactly like the old. B. They will be a place of eternal warfare. C. They will be free from sorrow and death. D. They will only be for a select few. Answer: C. They will be free from sorrow and death. Isaiah predicts that the new heaven and new earth will be places where sorrow, pain, and death will cease to exist. Isaiah 65:17-25 describes this new creation where the former things will not be remembered, portraying an idyllic future for God's people. Question 13. In which chapter does Isaiah prophesy the virgin birth of the Messiah? A. Chapter 53. B. Chapter 7. C. Chapter 11. D. Chapter 40. Answer: B. Chapter 7. Isaiah prophesies the virgin birth of the Messiah in chapter 7:14. This prophecy is given as a sign to King Ahaz and speaks of a young woman who will conceive and give birth to a son named Emmanuel, symbolizing God's presence and divine intervention. Question 14. What are the woes Isaiah declares, and to whom are they directed? A. To the faithful in Israel. B. To the nations surrounding Israel. C. To the corrupt leaders of Judah. D. To the priests and prophets. Answer. C. To the corrupt leaders of Judah. The woes Isaiah declares are directed toward the corrupt leaders of Judah. These pronouncements, found throughout the book, condemn their greed, injustice, and idolatry, warning of impending judgment if they do not repent and restore righteousness in their governance. Question 15. How does Isaiah contrast the worship of false gods with the worship of the true God? A. By highlighting the power of false gods. B. By depicting the true God as less demanding. C. By illustrating the futility of idol worship. D. By showing that all religions are equal. Answer. C. By illustrating the futility of idol worship. Isaiah contrasts the worship of false gods with the worship of the true God by illustrating the futility of idol worship. He mocks the idols made by human hands, unable to speak or move, and emphasizes the sovereignty and living power of the Lord, who actively intervenes in the affairs of the world and provides for his people. This contrast is meant to steer the people of Judah back to faithful worship of the one true God. Question 16. What does Isaiah say about the day of the Lord? A. It will be a time of great joy and celebration for all nations. B. It will be a day of darkness and gloom. C. It will mark the beginning of a new age of prosperity. D. It will be forgotten and never occur. Answer. B. It will be a day of darkness and gloom. Isaiah describes the day of the Lord as a time of darkness, gloom, and harsh judgment for the sinful and the nations that have turned away from God. This day is characterized by divine wrath and is intended to purify and restore righteousness. Isaiah 13:9-11 states, Behold, the day of the Lord comes, cruel, with wrath and fierce anger, to make the land a desolation and to destroy its sinners from it. Question 17. How was the theme of redemption explored in the book of Isaiah? A. Through the description of economic prosperity. B. Through the promise of returning exiles and a restored nation. C. By promoting the power of kings and rulers. D. Through the condemnation of all nations. Answer. B. Through the promise of returning exiles and a restored nation. Isaiah explores the theme of redemption by prophesying the return of the exiles and the restoration of the nation of Israel. This theme is articulated through the promises of salvation and physical return to their homeland, as well as spiritual renewal. Isaiah 43:5-6 says, Fear not, for I am with you. I will bring your offspring from the east, and from the west I will gather you. Question 18. What metaphor does Isaiah use to describe the judgment of God against sinful nations? A. A sheltering tree. B. A nurturing river. C. A refining fire. D. A peaceful meadow. Answer. C. A refining fire. Isaiah uses the metaphor of a refining fire to describe the judgment of God against sinful nations. This imagery suggests purification and the removal of impurities, signifying how God's judgment intends to purify and restore righteousness by consuming all that is evil and unjust. Isaiah 1:25 mentions, I will turn my hand against you. I will thoroughly purge away your dross and remove all your impurities. Question 19. How does Isaiah use the imagery of vineyards to deliver his message? A. As a symbol of decay and neglect. B. As a representation of prosperity and growth. C. As a metaphor for Israel, God's beloved vineyard that he judges for its unfruitfulness. D. As a sign of eternal peace. Answer. C. As a metaphor for Israel, God's beloved vineyard that he judges for its unfruitfulness. Isaiah uses the imagery of vineyards to symbolize Israel as God's beloved but unfruitful vineyard, which he must judge and discipline due to its lack of justice and righteousness. Isaiah 5, 1-7 explains this metaphor in detail, describing how God expected justice but saw bloodshed, and righteousness but heard cries of distress. Question 20. What does Isaiah say about the fate of Babylon? A. It will become an eternal capital. B. It will prosper and lead the world. C. It will be destroyed and never inhabited again. D. It will convert and follow the true God. Answer: C. It will be destroyed and never inhabited again. Isaiah prophesies that Babylon, the powerful empire, will face destruction and will become desolate, never to be inhabited again. This prediction emphasizes God's judgment on oppressive powers and is a reassurance to the Israelites of God's ultimate authority and justice. Isaiah 13:19-20 states, Babylon, the jewel of kingdoms, the pride and glory of the Babylonians, will be overthrown by God like Sodom and Gomorrah. Question 21. What promise does God give through Isaiah or regarding the remnant of his people? A. They will be forgotten. B. They will face perpetual exile. C. They will be brought back and restored. D. They will become a minor tribe. Answer: C. They will be brought back and restored. Through Isaiah, God promises that the remnant of his people will be preserved, brought back from captivity, and restored to their homeland. This promise reflects God's enduring commitment to his covenant and his mercy in restoring his people despite their unfaithfulness. Isaiah 10:21-22 mentions, a remnant will return, the remnant of Jacob, to the mighty God. Question 22. How does Isaiah describe the suffering servant in chapters 52 and 53? A. As a victorious king. B. As a suffering servant who bears the sins of many and is led like a lamb to the slaughter. C. As a rebellious figure. D. As a distant and uninvolved character. Answer: B. As a suffering servant who bears the sins of many and is led like a lamb to the slaughter. Isaiah describes the suffering servant as one who bears the sins of many and suffers on behalf of others. This figure is depicted as submissive and silent in his afflictions, much like a lamb led to the slaughter, highlighting the theme of vicarious suffering and redemption. Isaiah 53:7 says, He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. Question 23. Which chapters of Isaiah are considered to have been written during the Babylonian exile? A. Chapters 1-39. B. Chapters 40-55. C. Chapters 56-66. D. All chapters. Answer: B. Chapters 40-55. Chapters 40-55 of Isaiah, often referred to as Deutero-Isaiah, are considered to have been written during the Babylonian exile. These chapters address the exiles directly and speak of comfort, deliverance, and the promise of return, suggesting a context where the people of Judah were in captivity. Question 24. What sign is given to King Ahaz in the book of Isaiah? A. A flood will destroy his enemies. B. The sun will stand still. C. A young woman will bear a son named Emmanuel. D. Fire will come down from heaven. Answer: C. A young woman will bear a son named Emmanuel. Isaiah gives King Ahaz a sign that a young woman will bear a son named Emmanuel, symbolizing God's presence and assurance of deliverance. This sign, detailed in Isaiah 7:14, is intended to reassure Ahaz during a time of political crisis and threat from enemy kingdoms. Question 25. How does Isaiah's prophecy influence the New Testament writers? A. It is rarely referenced. B. It provides a framework for the Messiah's role. C. It is contradicted in several places. D. It is considered irrelevant. Answer B. It provides a framework for the Messiah's role. Isaiah's prophecies deeply influenced New Testament writers by providing a prophetic framework for understanding the role and nature of the Messiah, Jesus Christ. Passages like Isaiah 7:14, 9-6, and 53 are frequently cited in the New Testament to explain Jesus' mission, suffering, death, and kingdom. Question 26. What specific reforms does Isaiah call for in Judah's society? A. Strengthening military defenses. B. Enhancing trade agreements. C. Social justice, caring for the poor, and righteous living. D. Building more temples and altars. Answer C. Social justice, caring for the poor, and righteous living. Isaiah calls for significant reforms in Judah's society, emphasizing the need for social justice, care for the poor, and a commitment to righteous living. He condemns the society's exploitation and corruption, urging a return to the values that honor God and promote community welfare. Isaiah 1:17 advises, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. Question 27. How does Isaiah describe the ultimate triumph of God's mountain Zion? A. As a mere religious site. B. As the highest of all mountains, exalted above the hills. C. As indistinguishable from other religious places. D. As abandoned and forgotten. Answer B. As the highest of all mountains, exalted above the hills. Isaiah describes the ultimate triumph of God's mountain Zion as becoming the highest of all mountains and exalted above the hills. This metaphorical elevation signifies Zion's supreme importance as a spiritual and divine center where all nations will stream to worship God, as prophesied in Isaiah 2:2. Question 28. What warnings does Isaiah give to the wealthy and complacent in Judah? A. They will be rewarded for their prosperity. B. They will face divine judgment and downfall. C. They will lead the nation forever. D. They will be ignored by God. Answer B. They will face divine judgment and downfall. Isaiah warns the wealthy and complacent in Judah that their neglect of justice and indulgence in luxury will lead to divine judgment and downfall. He criticizes their self-centered lifestyles and indifference to the plight of the less fortunate, predicting that such injustice will result in societal collapse and personal ruin. Isaiah 5:8-10 denounces those who add house to house and join field to field until there is no room for anyone else, declaring that their great houses will become desolate. Question 29. How does Isaiah use nature metaphors to describe the future glory of Zion? A. As a barren desert. B. As a wasteland filled with weeds. C. As a blossoming garden full of life and fertility. D. As an unchanging landscape. Answer C. As a blossoming garden full of life and fertility. Isaiah uses nature metaphors to describe the future glory of Zion as a blossoming garden full of life and fertility. This imagery, seen in Isaiah 35:1-2, illustrates the transformation of Zion into a place of beauty, abundance, and divine blessing, symbolizing the restoration and spiritual rejuvenation of God's people. Question 30. What prophecies does Isaiah make about the nations surrounding Israel? A. They will all become vassal states to Israel. B. They will be judged and some will be restored. C. They will unite to form a single nation. D. They will disappear without a trace. Answer B. They will be judged and some will be restored. Isaiah prophesies that the nations surrounding Israel will be judged for their actions, but also mentions that some will be restored. This reflects a dual aspect of God's dealing with the nations. divine judgment for injustice and idolatry, but also the extension of grace and inclusion into the redeemed community for those who turn to God. Isaiah 19:23-25 speaks of a highway from Egypt to Assyria, with both nations serving God alongside Israel in peace and unity.